Well, tell us about, you guys have a great vantage point. I love middle market. That is so much a part of our economy. Tell us what you're seeing and what you're, in terms of lending activity, business activity, concerns. How would you describe how middle markets or middle market businesses see the world right now?
Well, it's a terrific business. And so when we talk about middle market companies, we cover U.S. and Canadian-based companies. We also cover their international subsidiaries around the world. And what is terrific about the middle market space, they're a real driver of the economy right now. They're driving growth, they're driving hiring, and they're driving innovation. And, when we look at what that means for us at Bank of America, that's driving deposits, it's driving lending, and it's driving strategic activity. And most notably, M&A has been a big opportunity for our client base across the middle market space. And they're using M&A to grow, to manage supply chain, to bring costs down, and then also to expand globally.
So what's driving the M&A? Is it? And we were talking private equity last week, and somebody who's in middle market private equity, and a big narrative there is that there are a lot of family businesses that the people, maybe they're second generation or first generation businesses, and they don't have, their heirs do not want to continue to run the business. Is that driving M&A?
That's part of it. We see when we talk about that
was like the opportunity for private equity.
Yeah. So for us, when we look at the privately held companies that we cover, a lot of them now are run by third, fourth, or fifth generation. So they have had succession planning that has worked well. It's not to say that there are companies that don't have that opportunity, and so they do look to sell. But it's not that binary. Some of our clients that, would like to have a liquidity event, they want to take, some of the valuation off the table, and so they might sell a portion of the company, but not the whole thing. They continue to run the company. Some companies are looking at M&A. They want to acquire other companies because they're really looking to grow, whether that is grow geographically, whether it is sector adjacent. And then, other companies are looking to solve for specific challenges that they're facing. Supply chain has been a real consideration. And so where they can diversify supply chain and look to grow globally, they've been doing that too.
Would these firms say globalization is dead or not dead? Because it sounds like they're growing internationally. If they're also thinking about supply chains around the world, to me, it would say no. But tell me what you're hearing.
I would say it's evolving. So
Okay.
If you remember a few years ago, there was a lot of conversation about friendshoring, reshoring, nearshoring, and a lot of our client base did that. However, the world continues to change. And given the geopolitical uncertainty, clients have to be flexible. And so an area that might have been a really good opportunity for them may not be as appealing. And conversely, an area they've gone into, they want to double down. The other thing that we're finding is that as clients are diversifying, they leave opportunity in one part of the world, and they're not looking to move that into a different part of the world. So they can then protect, the business ecosystem in Europe, as an example.
Go ahead, Carol.
All I want to ask you is, what's the relationship? Because you said you work in North America, so U.S. and Canadian firms. What's the relationship between U.S. and Canada based on your clients that are doing stuff back and forth? What's the reality?
So the reality is that the relationships are strong. So I'll set politics aside. We don't focus as much on the politics. We focus on what the business relationships are like.
Those relationships,
it can, but
right?
what I would say is that, look, our clients are much more pragmatic than they are political. And so, they want to make sure that they are well positioned to continue to grow their companies. And the best way to do that is to have the right partners cross-border. And there is a lot of back and forth between the U.S. and Canada. And, the Canadian-based companies that we work with, the U.S. is an important market for them, as are other markets outside of North America. And so regardless of where they're doing business, we're able to support them.
The companies that you cover, it's very diverse. It's geographically diverse. It's diverse in terms of industries. But are there certain areas where you see strength versus weakness, not geographically, but in sectors?
I would say we're seeing a lot of strength in most of the sectors that we cover. That's by design. We want to cover sectors that are growing so that we can continue to do business over the long period of time. They have different challenges, different opportunities. If you're looking at manufacturing, there's a lot of growth in manufacturing, but talent can be a challenge. If you're looking at healthcare, there's a lot of growth in healthcare, but the capital investment required for healthcare, that's an opportunity, but it's also an expense. And every sector has different opportunities and challenges.
We talk so much about geopolitics and White House actions, but would you say that there are bigger themes and trends that are much more important to that middle market space?
Yes. One is AI, which I am sure you are thinking about. But the way our clients are thinking about it might be a little bit different than what you would expect. I mean, our clients are thinking about how to use AI to do 4 things. The first is they've got to deliver a better customer experience. The second thing they're looking to do is enable frontline employees. The third thing is to improve process. And the fourth thing is to drive efficiency. And in order to do that, they've got to make sure that they have their data in order. They've got to make sure they understand their processes and then look at how to overlay AI so that they can get the benefits that AI will deliver and one or more of those 4 things that I've mentioned.
How are you using AI?
Well, we have a similar approach at Bank of America. And so we, too, also have looked at all of our data. We've got our data well organized so we can utilize it. I actually think it's the holy grail for us. I mean, when you think about the number of clients that we cover, not only in global commercial banking, but across our company, we have millions and millions of clients. And so we have a lot of data, but the data is only as good as the insights that we can pull from it. So we've been very focused on how to do that across all of our lines of business.